light. Feels like I'm meant to strike. Flat earth beneath my feet, knowing I'm here to meet. Ocean's edge, it calls my name. Purpose in this life's game. Horizons line so clear. God's love brings me near. Flat earth made by him. My journey long yet thin. Purpose found in every day. Guided by his gentle sway. Mountains tall, they stand in place.
Yo, Flows, what's up? Good to see you guys. Glad you could make it. Joined by Luke for an exciting part 3 of the series. Hope you're doing well, mate.
Yes, I'm good. You
It's
too.
good. Yeah. Uh, I want to say something, I can't remember what. But it's good to be here. Um, I see we got just about halfway last time in the he's part 1. We're probably gonna still have a few more series left because we're gonna do his part 2 probably as well. If you're up for it, though.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's good to see you here. Glad you could make it. I do enjoy this actually every second weekend. I think it's a fun thing to do. Everybody in the YouTube land, thanks for coming. Please hit the likes, share the show. Appreciate you all. You rock. Okay, we're ready to start. I think it's about where we stopped last time. I think we were like just a minute further than this, but
Okay.
just so we can get the context of where we ended actually.
Realized the goddess had survived. She had not been destroyed, but had simply adopted another incarnation. And perhaps one day, future generations will be able to bring her back as we knew her, in the glory of Avalon.
Let's look at some other Catholic symbols. In this photo,
Yeah, so that's where we ended last time actually, because it was saying Mary was based on a pagan deity. That's what they actually based Mary on. Why do they have these carpets and things hanging from the balconies when they have the popes coming out there?
Just showing
I've
their
always wondered,
colours.
because I've always wondered that it's like really in your face kind of thing. Because if you're looking at the Bible and you're trying to see what it teaches, it doesn't teach you that you're supposed to be boasting and I can say pushing yourself as this high and mighty kind of guy. And these guys go out of their way to be flashy and show they like the boss kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite. You're supposed to be humble and where Catholic Church is like it's like it's royalty.
Yeah,
All
they do give themselves royalty.
gold and jewels and everything's very flash.
Yeah, kind of opposite of what the Bible teaches, exactly.
Yeah.
notice the numerous symbols of the sun, moon and stars above the windows. Further evidence of sun worship can be found in the dome of St. Peter's. Notice the sun at the centre of the dome through which sunlight comes. A little known fact is that Catholic churches are built so that worshippers stand facing the east. Although churches may arbitrarily face in any direction, the prevalence and consistency of this practice in Catholic churches suggests that they mean something specific by it. Just as the
Yeah. So it was like the rising of the sun symbolism.
Yeah. Welcoming the sun.
And this is where, with the Muslims, they got it too, because that's why they pray specifically to the Kaaba, which is situated to the east.
I thought
Weird
they
how
prayed
they
to Mecca.
Mecca, but the Kaaba is in Mecca.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, the Kaaba stone's in Mecca.
Yeah.
It shows you all the similarities that they have actually. And at the back of all this stuff, it's Babylonian. This is it's sad because I've been trying lately to try and explain to some heliocentric defenders that yeah, your heliocentric belief system falls from Babylonian beliefs, and they don't want to accept it at all.
Yeah.
They're just like, no, 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 no. That's not true because the Babylonians believed it was a flat Earth. That's not true. The Babylonians have always been sun worshippers. They pray to Molech as
Mm.
well. So there's so many offshoots from Babylonian worship that it's integrated into today's society so much that people don't actually see it. They become blind to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Jewish temple had
Sure.
worshippers facing to the west, and the tabernacle likewise had its entrance on the east side. It is strange to find that this has been reversed, but then we read in Ezekiel 8:14-16, "He brought me to the north gate of the Lord's temple, and some women were sitting there, weeping for the god Tammuz. Have you seen this? He asked. But I will show you even more detestable sins than these. Then he brought me into the inner courtyard of the Lord's temple. At the entrance to the sanctuary, between the entry room and the bronze altar, there were about 25 men with their backs to the sanctuary of the Lord. They were facing east, bowing low to the ground, worshipping the sun. Catholic churches are built facing the east because it represents turning their backs to the Lord and instead worshipping the rising sun. Mass in Catholicism is something other than a simple remembrance of Christ's suffering on the cross, as it was intended to be. The Church of Rome has perverted it into a reenactment of Christ's sacrifice. It is claimed that the Catholic priest literally sacrifices Christ each time on the altar for the sins of those present, and
Whoa, why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I mean, the
That's
lamb
what
has already
communion
been,
is.
yeah, but I mean, that's what the lamb has already been slain. So they're misrepresenting what Jesus said when he said, take this in remembrance of me. But now because they keep on sacrificing him over and over again, they are being the ones actually giving the atonement.
Yeah. They when they do the prayer over the bread and the wine, it's literally the flesh and blood. They believe that they are literally eating the flesh and blood of Christ, and clearly that's not what that is supposed to be.
No.
That's not what he's getting at when he said, "I am the bread."
Yeah, because it was just a symbolism for for his sacrifice. But I mean, like I said, he sacrificed once. He doesn't need to be sacrificed over and over. Then it's just a meaningless tradition.
Yep. It's known as transubstantiation. That this is the where you're actually changing the bread into the flesh and the wine into the blood, literally.
So they're becoming cannibals.
Yep.
Yeah, symbolized cannibals. Actually.
Cannibals and
Yeah,
vampires.
it's quite. Hmm.
Quite a magic trick they're doing there, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a spell.
Well, it is based on those kind of things. Is what even if you go look at witchcraft and any occultism based on Satanism, it has the same root rings, and it is
Yeah.
spell. It's casting spell. It is exactly that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, let's go.
those who have died. The idea is that Jesus' death and resurrection was not a once and for all act, but that they need to continually crucify him over and over to keep atoning for sins. Pope Pius X described it as follows: "The Holy Mass is a prayer itself, even the highest prayer that exists. It is the sacrifice dedicated by our Redeemer on the cross and is repeated every day on the altar. The blasphemy of the Catholic Church is that they claim to kill Jesus every day through the ritual, causing him perpetual suffering. Nothing could be more obviously from the mind of Satan than this. It is also full of bowing, crossings, and genuflections. This is a far cry from the practice of Jesus or the apostles. Then there is the circular wafer, which again represents the sun. As it is held aloft, Catholics are encouraged to venerate or worship it.
Sure.
After being held aloft, it is then placed in the center of something called a monstrance.
There's so much wrong symbolism with this.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, even the
You
way.
used to be an altar boy, and
Yeah.
this at this part of the mass, everyone's kneeling, and as the priest holds up the wafer, you ring a bell, like ding 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 ding, ding, just like so ritualistic. And then he holds up the wine, and again you ring this bell, and no one in the congregation knows what's going on.
It's
So
insane.
all this,
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the symbolism behind it as well, he's making everybody bow down, making a sun kind of pulling it over their heads and saying it has dominion. But the symbolism of this is that the sun has dominion over you. You're bowing in submission to the sun, which is
yeah.
really wow.
And then
Thank you, Roger,
after you
for giving me membership. You rock, man. Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
after you have communion, you then go and you go back to your seat and you kneel again, and there's like about 10 minutes where everyone's silent, and you're thanking Jesus for coming into you. Like, is what a lot of nonsense. Like,
Yeah.
we literally thought that's what's happening. Oh, aren't we so privileged to be able to go to church every Sunday and have God enter us through this ritual?
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's exactly, Mister. He's
disgraceful.
the act is Dagon, the Dagon, the fish god. But that's what
And
we try to show. There's
yeah,
so much symbolism behind all this that's not Christian. Yeah, yeah, sorry, go on.
and it was like it was such a uh, it was kind of like a status symbol to be when you're a Catholic. Like at Catholic school, there'd be the odd Protestant or non, someone who wasn't a Catholic, and they couldn't take communion, but we'd let them walk up and they'd put their arms across their chest like a cross, which is a Masonic hand signal, and they'd get a blessing, and it was like, oh, how lucky, you can't get communion. We'd go up there and get a blessing from the priest, and sort of quite divisive.
That's one thing I've never really understood. Why are you getting a blessing from the priest when you're supposed to get a blessing from God?
Yep.
And this is again one of the similarities when it comes to Islam. When you pray for blessings, you pray to Muhammad. You don't pray to Allah. So it's it's kind of
There's
bypassing God and making a mere mortal man greater than God. I mean, when they pray to Allah, they actually ask to bless Allah. Why would you have to pray to bless Allah? Who are you to bless someone? Bless Allah, God.
Yeah, it's a man.
Hmm. It's crazy.
These are a few types of monstrance. You will instantly recognize the solar and lunar imagery. By placing the wafer, representing the sun, on the lunar monstrance, you symbolically create a sexual joining of the male and female gods. You may also notice that this monstrance looks like the logo for the United Nations, and we'll get into that later.
Hmm.
The joining of the sun and crescent moon in this way was prevalent in pagan cultures. In this example, which is a pagan Canaanite pillar, we see raised hands in praise of the sun disk within the crescent moon.
Wow,
In this
exactly the same as what the priest is doing.
And it's all very similar to Islam as well. So many similarities between Catholicism and Islam.
That's wow. But that's why I do believe this one religion, Islam thing, is a stem shoot from this whole Babylonian thing, because that's what
Yeah.
Satan had planned, and that's why you
Yep.
see today so many, such a big push for inclusivity when it comes to the Christian faith. They want everybody to be one religion.
Yes. The Pope's
next
been
one we see
keeps saying that. Pope keeps going on about how we all believe in the same Jesus and the same God, and that's not right at all.
Hmm.
an Egyptian statuette of an Apis bull, which is one of the most complete representations of Mystery Babylon religion there could ever be.
Yeah.
We have the bull itself, which as we know represents Nimrod. We have the sun disk representing Tammuz. We have the crescent moon, which represents Semiramis, and the serpent representing Satan, all compiled into one statue. So this is the most evil statue that you could possibly imagine. In this final example, we see an ancient...
Well, if you look at that statue that they just had on, what happened when Moses came down from the mountain and he saw the people worshiping a golden calf? God literally swallowed them up in the ground.
Yep.
Very evil. And there was a reason they used the golden calf.
Nimrod.
So I get goosebumps when I see statues like this.
Yeah.
Makes my hair stand up.
Yeah.
depiction of Isis, the Egyptian Asherah, the female goddess, with the same symbolism. She is holding her son Tammuz. Then there's the sun disk on her head within the crescent. Often within sun disks you'll see a face like this. Wherever you see a face within a sun, you're looking at a representation of Baal. Another feature of Catholicism...
And that's also the one thing that really gets to me. When you get the people that try to false equivocate saying Jesus is the Son, where they literally make him the Son. That is what they're saying. They're calling Jesus Baal. It's okay. They're calling Jesus Baal, and that's very apparent.
is the crucifix. This is the image of Jesus still nailed to the cross, and only Catholics use it. Often depictions are far more graphic in their detail than this and include blood and gore.
Mm-hmm.
This is linked with the blasphemous doctrine of the Mass, where Christ is continually sacrificed on the altar. By perpetually...
But this is also an idol. This is also an idol. Jesus very specifically says we shouldn't make idols, and they're making idols. I have to say, I don't just see this in Catholic churches anymore. I actually see this in in even Pentecostal churches these days. They think they'll try and use it as just art, but the symbolism behind it is idol.
Yeah, the cross is the cross is used because it's like it's finished.
Mm-hmm.
It's finished. He's not on there anymore. He's died, and he's been resurrected. But this is constantly reminding everyone and showing them the worst part of it, like him dying, or he's just died,
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
it's horrific.
they're keeping him in the bondage state.
Yeah.
displaying Jesus on the cross, they are continually crucifying him. Another feature of such crosses can be the circle or sun image around the intersection as shown here. It is particularly prevalent in what are now called Celtic crosses. Referring back to the previous part, you should notice that it creates the quartered circle symbol, which represents Asherah, and which is supposedly used to transmit the energy of the goddess. The idea of continual works or sacrifices to appease the gods and to earn your salvation is a pagan one and exists in all false religions. As it was once put very succinctly, every other religion says, do, but Christianity is the only one that says, done.
Uh-huh.
The sacrifice of Christ.
Yeah, exactly. Done. It's
Very
very
good point.
specific. Very good point. That's very specific. Yeah, because Christianity is God did for us, where other religions all over is what must you do for God and hope to get accepted.
Yep.
It's got to do with works.
Cool.
And where in Christianity, it's your works are just as filthy rags because it's not about your works. It's about
All
the grace.
mainstream. Sorry, mate.
No, go on. I was actually finished.
All mainstream religion is works based. You name any of the big so-called Christian religions, it's all about here's a roadmap to get yourself into heaven. Here's what you got to do, and that's not how it works at all. It's the opposite. It's like, of course it's you want to be a good person, but you you don't have to be a good person. That doesn't get you saved. Christ
Definitely.
already has done that for you through his sacrifice.
Yeah, and that's how the Catholics are. They go on works to try and get into to heaven. So I mean, and then you also hope you still game to get accepted even after all your works.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of things did you have to do when you were Catholic to try and atone to get accepted? Would you say?
Mass every Sunday. If you didn't go to mass, that's like a mortal sin. It's like on they put it at the same level as murder.
Wow.
So if you that's a big one. Obviously, pretty much breaking any of the 10 Commandments. And the main thing is that when you sin, if you die with that sin on your soul, you're in big trouble. So you've got to constantly be going to confession to have your sins forgiven by the priest, and then you're all good to go again. But just obviously creates a lot of anxiety because people, like, if they die, what's going to happen? I've got to be
Yeah.
judged by St. Peter at the pearly gates, and so you're living in constant fear, basically. Where true Christianity, you don't have that. Like, you know, you're
Couldn't
sealed
that,
by the
couldn't
blood.
that be the reason why they created purgatory and why people then can intercede for people after
Mm.
they die?
Yeah, well, that was a that they. I think we talked about that in one of the other episodes. Purgatory was halfway between heaven and hell, and you'd have to pray people out of purgatory. And the more you'd have to give money to the church, the more money you give, the more likely you would get your loved ones who had passed out of purgatory and into heaven.
Wow,
Just a
so kind of
just a
buy their
scam.
way, kind of
Yeah.
buying their way to heaven.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Buying
amazing.
and praying your way to heaven. Your loved ones.
Yeah.
Was a one-time only event that is completely sufficient for the atonement of sins. Jesus is now victorious over death, and salvation comes by faith alone. Satan would rather see Jesus being perpetually and endlessly punished, however, and hence these continuing representations of Christ on the cross. Satan is clinging hopelessly to the past, and enslaving humanity with works-based religion, which always either leads to feelings of pride or worthlessness, and both are as bad as each other. The Catholic idea of purgatory, where people spend a temporary period between heaven and hell being
Oh, that's,
purified of their sins through punishment, again has no biblical basis whatsoever. It is entirely Babylonian. The idea of the halo, as
so even purgatory is Babylonian based, not just
Mm.
something they came up with to like make
Yep.
it. Wow, I didn't know that though.
circle of light or a sunburst around the head is also a Catholic invention rooted in sun worship. Often when Mary is involved, the halo takes the form of a circle of stars, each one representing her demonic offspring. The name Vatican itself actually means the divining serpent and comes
This I actually heard of. Yeah. Why would you
Someone
want to
mentioned,
call a holy something holy divine serpent?
yeah,
I mean, this directly links to the serpent in the garden.
yep, that's who's running the show.
Mm-hmm.
Someone mentioned that in the chat.
Ah, but I mean, this is why we get when the people say, "Yeah, who's running it?" And you say, "They, the dark principalities and powers." It's it's the whole Babylonian system that runs it.
Mm,
They do it behind closed doors, so people aren't able to see it. I mean, it's in your face, like you see now, but people are so blind to it that they don't see it.
like that big room that they do all their big events in. They might
Oh yeah,
they might show
big
that
safe.
soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that big. Have you
so
seen
in
the
your
big?
face.
Wow. But I mean, even that on there on the stage in the background looks like hell. With Jesus on the cross there in hell and stuff. It's like wow.
Yep.
from the Latin vatis, which means diviner, and can, which means serpent. The word and act of celibacy comes from the name of a Roman pagan goddess, Cybele, and has no biblical basis whatsoever. The letters IHS are common in Catholicism, and although the official line is that they stand for Jesus Hominum Salvator, which means Jesus, the Saviour of men, it also happens to be the initials for an Egyptian form of the unholy trinity, Isis, Horus, and Seb.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. That's very. And you see, this is why a lot of people don't like the Trinity because it's based off of that pagan. Um, they see it based on that pagan, but like you said, they basing it off of the um, Catholicism's Trinity,
yeah.
which is totally different to what the Godhead Trinity really is.
Yeah. Totally
Um,
different.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that's the reason why you get a lot of the people that don't want to believe in the Trinity, quote unquote, because they have a totally different picture of what Trinity actually is stemmed from. They're taking it from the Catholic Trinity, which is Babylonian based. Um, by the way, I'm going to be having a conversation on Wednesday with Kingdom in Context, Sean, about the Trinity. So do pray for me. I
Okay.
hope it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good conversation because he is definitely not a Trinitarian. Um, and I do pray for him that he does realize what's being shown in the Bible because when you go through the scriptures, there definitely is always spoken about the Godhead, as in God the Father, Jesus the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what they actually communicate with and say how that's not what it actually says.
The he's a works-based salvation. He's a works-based salvationist as well, from what I can
Yeah, yeah,
tell.
yeah. Unfortunately,
So that'll be interesting chat.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, shout out to Sean. Though. I really do love the guy. I do believe he's an honest, pure kind of guy at heart, and he's unfortunately just deceived by some things, like everybody is.
He's very young,
Yeah, yeah, he's very young,
but
and
very
he's
smart.
still. Oh yeah, definitely. And he's only been, I think, doing this for maybe 10 years, being saved for 10 years or something. So he's still getting into it, really. You know what I mean? He would
Mm.
still be classified as a baby Christian, to put it in bad. But what I do admire from him, he does put a lot of study into his work. So I do, I do appreciate that from him. But the thing I don't like is you get the Christians that just call him heretic, and then they badmouth him and stuff, like Sam Shamoon and God Logic. And as much as I love them and support them as well, it's not a right approach to take to someone if you're trying to correct them, based on biblical theology. It's
Yeah.
not the right way of doing it, and that's that type of thing that they do actually causes people at the end of the way to fall away from the faith, because they say, why do I want to be part of this if all I get is ridicule and things from the Christians themselves?
Mm. And it's so easy to be a works-based salvationist, because if you're not rightly dividing, if you're not using dispensationalism, then how do you know what message for you is in the Bible, all the way from Genesis right through to Revelation? At what point do you go, what am I listening to? So when you realize that post resurrection is for us, then it makes a lot more sense. Paul's gospel is for us. So it's very easy for people to not realize that.
Yeah.
And it can take quite a journey before you realize that.
Yeah, and that's why I've seen a lot of people are still stuck in the old laws. Because you get
Yes.
people that are stuck in the old laws because of that, because they can't let go of the old Levitical laws, and the Jews are unfortunately part of that sitting,
Yeah.
and that's why they can't accept Jesus as the Messiah because of that.
And their one New Testament verse, I can't remember it now, but it's from James. It's the works is faith.
Yeah,
That's the one verse that they cling to. Sorry, I had it written down somewhere. I've forgotten it. Anyway, that's something you might cover with him when you have a chat.
yeah. I mean, we're still planning to have conversations in the future and stuff, so we're definitely gonna. I think we can do more than one kind of subject. We don't have to just do the same subject,
Mm.
because I do enjoy these chats with you.
Yeah, me too.
Now this one may seem like pure conjecture, but another key point that we'll go into later is that in occultism there is always a double explanation for symbols like these. There is always a false, seemingly light and good meaning, and a true but dark meaning.
That's actually what I was reading
That's
now.
correct.
Yeah. And also, Rockets, he asked, are there any Orthodox Christians here? What are your thoughts on the Orthodoxy?
It's, what I understand, a lot of similarities to Catholicism, but a lot of differences. That's there's different types of, there's Russian Orthodox. I think there's Ukrainian Orthodox is different, and then there's the Middle Eastern Christian Orthodox. So I don't have a lot of knowledge about what they're.
Yeah, because they also have a very almost cult-like look at the way things are written. You know what I mean? So, but
Yeah.
like you said, it's different Orthodox sects. Which is actually interesting. We might have to look into that as well.
Yeah, that'd be good. I've got a few mates who are Orthodox. I should chat to them.
Yeah. See what
They
they
usually.
because they do
Yeah.
have a different type of view on some things.
Yeah.
Surrounding the letters gives the game away a little in this particular symbol. There is in fact no need for me to highlight individual examples, as many notable Catholics are fairly candid about their adoption of paganism. For example, in The Externals of the Catholic Church by John F. Sullivan we read, "It is interesting to note how often our Church has availed herself of practices which were in common use among pagans. Thus it is true in a certain sense that some Catholic rites and ceremonies are a reproduction of those pagan creeds." In the Story of Catholicism on page 37 we read, "It has often been charged that Catholicism is overlaid with many pagan incrustations. Catholicism is ready to accept that accusation, and even to make it her boast. The great god Pan is not really dead, he is baptized."
Wow.
Now Pan is listed in the Satanic Bible as the horned god
Uh,
and is one of the infernal names of Satan.
yeah, quite
Yep.
hectic.
Pandemic.
Exactly. Wow. Yeah, panda. It's a demon. Hmm. And that's why it's called sort of like they say it's got the pandemic, and it's always in the 20s. Have you realized that through history they're always kind of getting all these pandemics in the 20s of every century, which is really odd.
Hmm.
Obviously, Satan cannot be baptized. Cardinal Newman, who was recently given sainthood by the Catholic Church, admits in his book that the use of temples and these dedicated to particular saints and ornamented on occasions with branches of trees, incense, lamps and candles, votive offerings on recovery from illness, holy water, asylums, holy days and seasons, use of calendars, processions, blessings on the fields, sacerdotal vestments, the tonsure, the ring in marriage, turning to the east, images at a later date, perhaps the ecclesiastical chant, and the Kyrie eleison are all of pagan origin and sanctified by their adoption into the Church.
Crazy.
In The Faith of Our
Yeah.
Fathers by Cardinal Gibbons we read, the penetration of the religion of Babylon became so general and well known that Rome was called the New Babylon. In Life of Constantine by
The
Eusebius,
New Babylon. I never knew that. Wow. So it was in their
Yep.
face even at that time when they called
Yeah.
Rome New Babylon. But that makes sense though why Roman Catholicism is so pagan. Because I mean, if you looked at the Romans before they became Roman Catholic as well, all the gods and stuff they followed. There's no kissing it, but yeah, it's quite in a person's face for sure.
Yeah.
we read,
Oh, the children getting restless.
in order to attach to Christianity great attraction in the eyes of the nobility, the priests adopted the outer garments and adornments which were used in pagan cults. In Religious Tradition and Myth by Dr. Edwin Goodenough we read, the Church did everything it could to stamp out such pagan rites, but had to capitulate and allow the rites to continue with only the name of the local deity changed to some Christian saint's name. But we can find many
Oh,
other
look at that hat.
examples if we choose.
Wow, look at that hat. No.
Yeah. Like the red shoes.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, why do the popes always look like they have this evil, sinister smile in their eyes?
Yeah. He was that Ratzinger. He was a part of Nazi youth.
Yeah.
We sometimes see the Pope and other members of the Catholic clergy wearing Saturno hats, for example, and this is in honor of the god Saturn. Most other times priests wear mitre hats, and these are connected to Dagon,
There's the Dagon.
another type of Babylonian god.
Yeah.
Here's a depiction of Dagon alongside the Pope with his mitre. Here you may also see that the Pope is holding a staff called the Twisted Cross. Roman Catholic author Piers Compton writes about it in his book, saying, the Twisted Cross is a sinister symbol used by Satanists in the 6th century that had been revived at the time of Vatican II. This was a bent or broken cross on which was displayed a repulsive and distorted figure of Christ, which the black magicians and sorcerers of the Middle Ages had made use of to represent the biblical term Mark of the Beast. Yet not only Paul VI, but his successors, the 2 John Pauls, carried that object and held it up to be revered by the crowds, who had not the slightest idea that it stood for Antichrist. So the staff being held in the Pope's hand is an open representation of the Antichrist, but only if you're initiated with the knowledge to really see that. This is the nature of
Look at even the color he's using, okay? It's like the color of the sun. He's using the orange and the dark burnt. Ah, man. And the thing is, the popes do know about this. That's why they're holding it. They do know the symbolism behind all this. It's not like they're just
Yeah.
coming into this ignorant and not knowing what's going on.
Yeah. It's like any it's like any secret society. The higher you go up, like certain bishops, once you get to a certain level as a bishop, they'd start to let you in, and they know that it's like politics. The people who get to the top, they're controllable. They've got lots of flaws. They're probably sociopaths, and they're the ones who they want to go to the top, and then they let them in on all the secrets because they know this guy's going to be on our team. He'll keep the secrets, and we can control him.
Yep.
The Pope is not
Wow.
the head of the church. It's like politics.
But you see, this is when
He's
they
a
come
puppet.
and when you talk about the Black Pope who pulls the strings and stuff. This is
Mm,
why so many people don't actually know about the Black Pope and stuff because there is a hierarchy, and that hierarchy is behind closed doors. These guys are just actually the face, you can put it. You know, like when you get politicians, the face of a party. That's what
yeah,
these popes are.
yeah. The secret society behind the leadership in the Catholic Church is the Jesuits. So the Black Pope's always a Jesuit. And now we've got the main Pope as a Jesuit for the. I think that's the first time ever.
Yeah.
Francis is a Jesuit. They've always been in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Of the occult, things that are in the open but whose true meanings are concealed. This was never more true than in March 2000 when Pope John Paul II preached an updated Sermon on the Mount at the altar of Corinthians.
Look at that upside down cross. What the
Yeah,
hell? On a tombstone.
yeah. Just right in your face.
And it visits a holy site.
In Israel. Here he sat under an inverted cross, one of the most potent and disgusting symbols of Satanism and black magic, under the pretense that it represents Peter, who was crucified upside down.
Oh,
Once more he
they do that a lot though.
Uh, yeah, and who killed him? The Romans.
Hmm. And to top it off, he's got the Dagon hat and he's got the bent cross staff.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like if you can't see it in your face there, then wow. But like you said, it's all just it's a spell. It's black magic.
And they're always holding up two fingers as well together, which is a Baphomet sign.
Yeah, and they. But you see, that's one thing I've realized. They always have some kind of excuse for the people asking questions about these things, like, oh, it's just a peace sign.
Yeah,
No,
the,
not
the,
really.
yeah. They've always got to have the surface level narrative. That's the same with all secret societies, all masonry. They'll have their this is a public relation response, and then there's a double meaning that's under it that only only the select few know about, or truth seekers who find out about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't care if people find out
holds
about it
up the
because they know the vast majority of people are never going to look into it and will stay. There's 90% of the population doesn't even want to find out what's going on.
No. But also, a lot of people are traditionalists. So, I mean, when they are born into, for instance, Roman Catholicism and they revere the Pope so high and stuff, they don't want to hear anything bad about it. They don't want to hear the negative things. They
No
just want to
way.
accept, I'm a good Catholic, I'm happy, God's going to bless me. You know what? I don't want to get in trouble. So then they go their whole life doing this, and then they're teaching their children that, and their children's going to do the same, and it just keeps tradition. Unfortunately, you get the majority of those people that just keep tradition.
They see priests, bishops, cardinals, right up to the Pope. They see them as gods on earth, like literal God.
Yeah,
So,
they do give them divinity. They do. They definitely do.
if you get blessed by the Pope, like so the Pope would come to Australia and he would say mass at the MCG. There's literally 100 people there, and so they felt people who go there they're getting blessed by God is what they think.
Yeah, I mean that's why they find it so brilliant to go and kiss the Pope's ring.
Yeah,
It's like, wow, I kissed the Pope's ring, and then it's like the biggest event in their life.
Twisted cross depicting the Antichrist for the adoration of the crowd right in front of it. Behind them all is a Christ-like mural displaying the words that he is coming soon, but as we'll discover later, this character for who they wait is in fact the Antichrist. These pictures represent perfect examples.
That is so true. It is the Antichrist they're waiting for. They
Yeah.
wait, and I mean, this whole symbolism right here is literally them mocking everybody, saying the Antichrist is going to sit on the throne in the third temple and declare himself as God.
Yes.
That's literally what this is in front of you.
It's just so it's mind-boggling how I don't like to say brilliant, but just what's behind the scenes, what Satan is doing is having level of what seems the biggest Christian church by far. So-called
But
Christian,
but it shows you Satan is the master manipulator,
yeah.
because he's honed down manipulating so much that he can manipulate to a person's face and they won't even realize they're being manipulated.
Mm.
Examples of how occult symbolism always has two meanings, a false public and acceptable front, and then a true hidden meaning behind it. This is another common symbol of Catholicism, the XP or the Chi Rho. The false and light explanation is that it represents Christ, as the first two letters in Christ's name are X and P in Greek. Now this is an extremely tenuous link at the best of times, but Albert Pike in the Freemason Handbook Morals and Dogma reveals the true origin of this symbol. The active and passive principles of the universe were commonly symbolized by the generative parts of man and woman. The Indian lingam was the union of both, as were the boat and mast and the point within a circle, all of which expressed the same philosophical idea as to the union of the two great causes of nature which concur, one actively and the other passively, in the generation of all beings. What he's basically saying is that it's another expression of the point within the circle we looked at earlier. It represents sexual union. Then there is the Vatican's crest. This is clearly a serpent or dragon, which is the symbol for Satan himself. Just a couple more to finish. In Rome there was a male god called Janus, who had a female partner called Cybele, from which we get the word celibacy. Cybele was always depicted wearing a tower as a crown, which was on account of her being the first to erect towers in cities, and this helps identify her as Semiramis under a new name. Janus was always depicted as carrying a key, because he was considered to be the grand mediator between heaven and earth. He was worshipped as the god of doors and hinges, and was called the grand opener and shutter, meaning the door of heaven would not be open to your prayers unless you first invoked Janus. The worship of Janus prevailed in Asia Minor at the same time the Lord commanded John to write in Revelation, "To the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, These are the words of him who is holy and true, who holds the key of David. What he opens no one can shut, and what he shuts no one can open." God is specifically proclaiming here that he is the Lord and the one true God, who alone opens and shuts the door of heaven, not Janus or Cybele or any equivalent.
Yeah, but I mean,
As the head of the mysteries on earth, the supreme
even if you just read your Bible, when it says when Jesus got crucified and he went down to get the keys of Hades,
Mm.
I mean, does that just go over the Catholics' heads, or what are they saying? That Janus is greater than Jesus? Wow.
I guess so, yeah.
pontiff held similar keys which were symbolic of his spiritual and earthly authority, hence the image of the two keys on the shield. One key is gold, representing the power to bind and loose in heaven, while the other is silver, symbolizing the power to bind and loose on earth. The Supreme Pontiff was therefore given the name the Interpreter because he was the link between heaven and earth. In Chaldee, the original language of the mysteries, the word interpreter becomes Peter,
Hmm.
Thus we see how the keys of Janus and Cybele would become known as the keys of Peter. And this is the origin of the unbiblical myth perpetuated by Catholics that the biblical Peter is waiting at the gates to heaven, ready to admit or turn away individuals who
Early
seek
game.
to enter. It simply comes down to a bit of wordplay with the Chaldean word for interpreter. The repetition of Hail Marys as a mantra to absolve yourself of sins is also from paganism. Jesus warned about it when he said, "When you pray, don't babble on and on as people of other religions do. They think their prayers are answered merely by repeating their words again and
Mm.
again." In later times the popes would arrogantly claim to be infallible, something that is true only of
But
God.
that is what Catholicism actually is. It's just chanting.
Yep.
And if you look at all the pagan religions, that is actually what it is. You're just chanting and you're doing the same thing over and over. It's become a tradition. It's dead. It's dead works.
Yeah.
There's no life in it.
Like
Oh,
when they would pray the rosary in mass. Now that I think back, because the rosary is basically about 90% Hail Marys. Like you literally do 30 Hail Marys, and so what's if someone died or whatever, then a group of them would go to the church. Oh, we're going to go down to the church and do the rosary. And the way that they would pray, they would go, "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us." And they're like a commentator calling a horse race.
yeah, yeah,
It's,
yeah.
and that they would fly through it, absolutely not heartfelt at all. It's like let's just do as many of these as we can, as quickly as we can.
Yeah, it's almost robotic.
Yeah.
Thank you for your super chat, Roper. Really appreciate it, man. With no message, is there anything specific you wanted to say, Roper, so we can show it? Really appreciate the super chat. You rock, man. I can't believe we actually threw the video now. It's like got 1 minute
Right,
left.
okay.
So we definitely gonna do the part two as well sometime. That's really gonna
By setting themselves up as gods, they, like Nimrod, consolidated their power by claiming to have spiritual and divine authority as well as political authority. Do your own explorations and you will find a lot more that give the game away. I've spent so long in Catholicism because it's important we realize the Babylonian mysteries are not some ancient belief system that died way back in the mist of time. The Babylonian religion is alive and well today, in this case disgustingly and confusingly wrapped in a cloak of Christianity. Christians are often confused about how we should relate to Catholicism, and many see it as a legitimate form of Christianity, and there are ecumenical movements today that are capitalizing on that ignorance. Many Christians feel like they have to apologize for the Crusades and the Inquisitions, even though true Christians were often the ones on the receiving end of those, as we shall soon see.
so true. Yeah, the Crusades is another thing that gets brought up a lot because the Crusades were brought by um, persecution of the church, but it was specifically persecution of the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholics.
Mm.
And Christians today don't understand because they can't differentiate between Catholicism and Christianity. They want to become apologists for it.
Yeah. That's sort of the whole point is that a lot of people when they're anti-Christian because a mainstream religion like the Catholic Church or Mormonism or Jehovah's Witnesses, they push back about that, and then they rope and conflate it all together.
Mm-hmm.
So because they're anti Catholic Church, that automatically makes them anti Christianity. And what we've shown is that the Catholic Church actually isn't Christianity. It's taken bits of Christianity, but it's mostly paganism, and it's actually anti-Christian.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's Antichrist. Like you just saw him sitting on on that throne with the upside down cross, literally symbolizing Antichrist. Um,
Yeah.
it's definitely anti-Christian. no doubt about it. But yeah, I think that was really cool. I'm glad we got through that first part. I think we'll do part two as well, because it's definitely going to go on. And then I would love to look at some later on some Orthodox stuff, and maybe look deeper into what the Chaldeans believed and the different pagan religions based on pagan Babylonian myths. I think that can be quite cool if you're up for it.
Absolutely. I'd also like to look at the link between the Catholic Church and Islam, because
Yeah,
they're very closely linked. And some would say that Islam was actually started by Catholicism.
Catholic. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember when Muhammad, well, supposed Muhammad, because people are even in contention if Muhammad actually even existed. Um, when it comes to contention, Islam started 600 years after Christianity. So 600 years after Jesus died, then came Muhammad and
Hmm.
started his Islamic cult. But
Yep.
the issue with his Islamic cult, he didn't have the correct information based on Christianity or even Catholicism at that time. So the things he was getting was based on Catholicism, which was also wrong. And unfortunately, that's why there's a lot of similarities today with Islam and Catholicism, because of that getting the wrong information through his how can I put it, conquests. Really, really sad. But yeah, I think that will be a cool thing to definitely go through. We look at the similarities, we look at how it actually came to be, and look through the history. I think that can be quite cool.
Yeah. And again for the Catholics, it's we're not having a go at God, at Christ. It's people that are doing this, inspired by Satan. So we don't have a problem with Catholics. We have a problem with the church. That's the issue we're trying to expose, and
Amen.
that Catholics are being deceived.
Yeah. Like you're saying, we're just trying to give the information, opening their eyes to the people. We say this out of love for the Catholics, that unfortunately you are not Christian. Um, not saying you're not saved, because it's very, very clear in John 3:16 that if you accept Jesus into your heart as your Lord and Savior, you're saved. So just because you're Catholic doesn't necessarily mean you're not saved. It just means you're in a cult. But when you come to the realization that what you're being led into, and God has called you to look deep and say, okay, what you're following is not Christian, it's up to you now to decide, are you going to stay in that Babylonian worship, or are you going to walk the true way God actually intended you to walk? So we're saying this out of love, actually, just to give the information to
Yeah.
people.
Yep. And it should come as a relief, if for Catholics and anyone, when they realise that it's not this competition to get into heaven by doing all this stuff and keeping the 10 Commandments. Absolutely, we should try, but we're never going to. The only one who's ever been sinless and ever will be is Jesus, and we can't
Amen.
compete with that.
Exactly.
But luckily, we don't have to. We can try as hard as we can, but the work is already done. It's finished. He died for us, and all you have to do is believe that that's what happened, and you're
Hmm.
saved. It should be a relief that you don't have to go through this battle for your salvation.
I agree, definitely. And I think that was a good close off for this stream today. I think it was awesome. Um, so maybe in 2 weeks again we go through the part two of this of his,
Yeah, sounds good. It'd be
and
great.
then after that we maybe go on to the Islam and the Catholicism links. I think that can be quite
Connection,
cool,
yeah,
definitely.
that'd be good.
But I appreciate you coming on. I do really enjoy these chats with you. I wish we could do it longer. It's just difficult on a Saturday morning with the children.
That's a good. That's a good length.
Yeah, an hour's
Nice
good
and
enough.
tight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
plenty.
But yeah, I do appreciate you, man. I pray big blessings for you, and really appreciate everything. And can't wait for not next Saturday, Saturday after that.
Yeah, look forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Definitely, man. You rock. Everybody in the chat, thank you for coming. Please hit the likes, share the show. Appreciate it. Appreciate the members and the super chat. And shout out to Jeremy Bird for your PayPal. Really appreciate you, man. You are a big blessing. Um, there's actually, I've been praying for that funds we needed for something. So, Jeremy, you actually answered a prayer. So, thank you very much. Because I have some big news to share in the future, hopefully soon. Just waiting for the right time. So thank you guys for everything. You guys are awesome. And until tomorrow, well, I mean tonight, for another stream. And stay tuned because later I'm going to be putting up the interview that I had with PJ and Michael. Only problem is it doesn't want to render. It keeps on having an error. So I've got to figure out what's going on there. But yeah, see that later and then the stream tonight. Many blessings. May the pressure with you. Blessings, guys.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Shine, crafted signs of the divine. I'm made for something true. In God's plan, my path renews. Flat earth made by Him. My journey long yet thin. Purpose found in every day. Guided by His gentle